Hey! Hi, how you doing? This is Ryan, and welcome back to the Gamertron Show. So, before we begin the video proper, I need to give all my regular viewers and subscribers an update and explanation as to the lack of content these past couple weeks. Now, as I'm sure you can imagine, family, friends, and work, of course, have been taking up a fair bit of my time, but on top of that, I've been working on my top 10 favorite video games of 2022 video. Which, full transparency, being completely honest here, I never expected to make this video. I was never planning to make it, but somehow, in some way, I ended up playing more than 10 video games that released in 2022. And it just feels right to share and celebrate with all of you all the amazing games I got to play in 2022 that came out in 2022. However, unlike my previous top 10 favorite games of the year videos, I'm not going to put a massive amount of effort into the recording and editing side of things like I usually do with my top 10 games of the year videos. It will be a far more casual affair. Right now, I just need to play and beat Dying Light 2, that's the game I'm currently playing through, making my way through, and once I've completed that game, I do believe I should be confident enough to start finalizing and finally share with all of you what are my honest top 10 favorite games of the year 2022. I don't care that we're in mid-February of 2023, the video gets done when it gets done. However, to make up for the lack of content these past couple weeks, I do intend to do at least a few live streams before the end of the month. I intend to live stream my first playthrough of Dead Space 2 Hardcore mode, as I have a craving for Dead Space thanks to the release of the Dead Space remake. More on that in just a bit. Lastly, thank you so much for your continued viewership, support, and kindness. I may have a small viewer base and community here online, but it sure as hell is a dedicated one. You guys and girls have pulled my ass out of the fire so many times. I'm eternally indebted to you all. I owe you all big time. Anyways, we're 2 minutes in. Let's get on with the actual video, shall we? Starting by addressing the title of the video itself. So how and why does the video game industry hate Canada so much? Simply put, video game publishers really don't want Canadians buying and owning their games come the day one launch and releases of their products. This, of course, comes down to the price tag of AAA video games and even some AA games. Now, while you Americans have had to pay a nice, flat, simple $60 or $59.99 for the base standard edition of most new video games, we Canadians, for a while, many years ago, had to pay $69.99, around 70 Canadian dollars per new game. However, around more than half a decade ago, the price shot up to $79.99 for a brand new video game, around 80 Canadian dollars. So for many years, this past decade alone, buying and playing brand new AAA big blockbuster video games in Canada have always been expensive. But in 2021, video games became even more expensive in Canada across the board with the introduction and increase on taxes for digital products, sales, and services. For example, say I wanted to purchase the brand new, newly released Dead Space remake. Couple years ago, it would have been just a straight, flat-out $79.99, 80 Canadian dollars. But now, thanks to Canadian digital taxes, I have to pay an additional $12 in tax, having me pay a total of $92 for a single video game. Your average Canadian has to pay almost $100, just $8 shy of $100, to purchase and own a brand new AAA video game. It's quite obvious and needless to say, no average, reasonable Canadian person is going to spend that much money on a single video game. Now, of course, for an average, reasonable Canadian like myself, there's no way I'm buying the game day one at that price. I'm going to wait for a sale. In all honesty, rationally thinking, this isn't that big a deal. First world problems at best. Just wait. Just don't buy it day one at full price. However, without a doubt, while this is a first world problem, this is still a stupid as hell problem nonetheless. There is no reasonable reason for video games to be this damn expensive in Canada, and in only Canada. If I purchased Dead Space Remake on Steam in the US, I would just have to pay $70 US, and that's it. Whereas in Canada, I have to arbitrarily pay an additional $12 fucking Canadian. That's an additional $9 USD for my American viewers. Canadian gamers have to pay more for video games than American gamers simply because we live in Canada. We're paying more money for the exact same product, for the exact same service, for the exact same procedure and purchase. There's nothing different about the product. There's nothing different about the video game. It's still the exact same. We're not getting any more value, any more content. We're just paying more because the Canadian government wants all of its citizens to be poor and homeless. Sorry, got a bit political there for a second. Now don't misunderstand me. While the fault absolutely, undoubtedly lies at the feet of the Canadian government for the absurd state of our taxes, the video game industry isn't doing the Canadian people any favors. Despite the fact that, quote, Canada is one of the biggest sources of video game development in the world. Again, video game development is huge here in Canada. But despite this, AAA video game publishers, and even some AA ones, vehemently refuse to throw the Canadian people a bone. Y'all have established businesses here in Canada. You know our taxes are insane. They're through the roof, yet nothing is done to compensate for it. And as a result, the overall worldwide video game industry makes way more money from territories like the UK and the USA than Canada in comparison. Don't get me wrong, the video game industry still makes billions from Canada, but it's still not as much as what is being made in the UK and the USA simply because more people can afford games. You want to know what the top-selling video game in Canada is and has been for the last few years? Minecraft. Not Call of Duty, as one may expect, as Call of Duty is still one of, if not the top-selling game in the US and the UK, and regularly is in those areas almost every year. In Canada, it's Minecraft. Why? Because it's more affordable. Your average Canadian citizen cannot justify spending almost $100 on a brand new video game. The video game industry in Canada could be making so much more money if they reasonably adjusted their prices. However, instead, we have some video game publishers that want to even further increase the price of brand new AAA releases in Canada. For example, Electronic Arts with the recent release of Wild Hearts. $89.99 Canadian, $90 Canadian, and the Canadian taxes for this game are even higher, $13 Canadian, bringing the total price to $103 Canadian. $103 Canadian dollars for a single video game. This isn't even like a special edition or collector's edition or some shit. This is just the base standard edition of Wild Hearts. Over $100. I goddamn guarantee you that sales of Wild Hearts in Canada is going to be drastically lower than sales of the game in the US and the UK because the average Canadian citizen is not going to pay that fucking much for a single video game. EA is actually making less money, not more, simply because more people are not going to buy the game on day one at that initial price. I guarantee you, thousands of potential Canadian customers did not pre-purchase, did not pre-order Wild Hearts based on the price tag alone. But then, we have the absolute fucking lunatics over at Square Enix, whom, for their recent brand new AAA video game Forspoken, priced the game at $93 Canadian. Add that up with an additional $14 in tax, that's $107 Canadian. $107 for a single video game. You know, initially, I had some morbid curiosity for Forspoken. I was somewhat interested, almost excited even, to check this game out. But with that price tag, any initial interest I had before has been thoroughly decimated. I will not be picking up and playing this game anytime soon. And I do believe that it's a pretty fair assumption to make that most Canadian consumers feel the exact same way. Again, this is $107 Canadian for the base standard edition of a video game. Not the deluxe edition or special edition or collector's edition. There's no bonus additional content. Just for the base standard product, you are paying $107. $107! That's a bill that could be paid. That's 1 or 2 weeks worth of groceries depending on where you buy and what you buy. Now, moving away from statistics and data for just a moment, just based off of my own personal experience, all of my fellow Canadian friends and acquaintances don't buy new AAA video games. They just don't. They'll play free-to-play games, indie games, cheaper, popular AA middle market games, or buy and play older AAA video games that are on sale or have a significantly reduced price. I don't personally know anyone in Canada who, on the regular, purchases brand new AAA video games on a consistent basis. Sure, everyone's human. Every once in a while we give in to temptation and we spend full price on a brand new AAA video game that we're really excited for, really looking forward to. However, in comparison, I have a bunch of American friends who buy and play brand new AAA video games regularly, simply because, no duh, they're more affordable. Now, bringing us back to something important that I said earlier in the video, all of this is still, nonetheless, just first world problems. It's just video games. It's just entertainment. Easy solution. Just don't buy the games at full price at launch. Or perhaps make use of one of the many video game subscription services like Xbox Game Pass and PlayStation Plus. Get access to a massive library of games for a reasonable monthly fee. I personally prefer to purchase and own my games, but subscription services are always an option. However, what riles me up so much about this issue comes from 2 fronts. 1, as a businessman, and 2, as a Canadian citizen. As a businessman, it frustrates me so much that all of these video game developers, publishers, these companies, these corporations, they're making so much less money here in Canada than they otherwise would if they just lowered the prices of their games in Canada to compensate for the ridiculous taxes we have here. I know for a fact, I promise all of you, way more consumers here in Canada would buy and play new AAA video games on day 1 if they didn't cost over $100 fucking. But because the heads of these billion-dollar corporations are short-sighted, closed-minded, and just fucking stupid and greedy, they make so much less money here in Canada than they otherwise would be. And then there's me as a Canadian citizen, and I can't help but feel a great deal of shame. Shame in my fellow countrymen and women who have allowed our government to just dick us around and fuck us over like this. We literally simply can't afford basic forms of entertainment that the rest of the world get to indulge in because our shit is just way more expensive than the exact same shit in the rest of the world. Oh boy. Hello, this is Ryan from the future. So for about 5 minutes or so, I went on a very impassioned political rant concerning Canada, our taxes, and government, which I would presume most of you are not here for. So I just cut like 5 minutes of me ranting. Sorry about that. Back to the regularly scheduled program. Anyways, yeah, it's a damn shame the state of the video game industry here in Canada. Sure, of course, the country is packed to the brim with talent and prominent video game developers, producing exceptional products for the rest of the world to enjoy. Without a doubt, being a video game developer in Canada is something to aspire to and be proud of. But as a consumer in Canada, it's hell out here. The initial prices of AAA video games are ludicrous, and the taxes even more so. So for those of you wondering why your favorite Canadian video game content creators aren't playing, covering, or talking about the latest AAA video game releases, well, it's because they're expensive as hell and we can't afford them. Apparently the video game industry just fucking hates Canada. Well, at least the AAA side of it. We still have the amazing and affordable indie scene to rely on. Anyways, that's been a video. Thank you for watching. If you did indeed like the video, please be sure to hit the like button, leave a comment in the comment section down below, and share the video on social media, Twitter, Reddit, and Facebook. And if you want to help out and support me directly, please consider making a donation to my Buy Me a Coffee page, link in the description down below, or donating via the YouTube Super Thanks feature. Anyways, once again, that's been a video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you all later.